Dance the beat again. Truth is stranger fiction. When it gets too high in your kitchen, that's the beat again.
What proof do you have as a pilot, someone who's flown how many hours?
About 10,000.
10,000
Over 10,000.
hours. Okay, right, up to 10,000 hours. What proof do you have that chemtrails exist?
Well, these programs are widely documented. You can find all kinds of documentation about these programs. These are military programs, but the civil aviation is a part of the military industrial complex. It's commercial aviation, but that's actually a part of the defense department. Like Boeing, most persons thinks that Boeing is a commercial aviation company. No, it's a military contractor. It's the commercial aviation is just a tiny part of it. That's how all these corporations operate.
Hi, this is Herschel36 on the beat, and guess who I have got with me? I have got Ole Dammegard. Now, Ole, I pronounced your name for the first time correctly, didn't I?
More or less.
Oh, no! I don't believe it!
Oh, it sounds great, Dave. Absolutely, Dave.
Because you were on, well, you're all over the place right now. It's brilliant. I love listening to you. I love the fact that people are starting to take notice of what you're saying, because what you're saying is fantastic, okay? Just for me, people say I'm a nut, but I believe what we're going to talk about, okay? And maybe I'm a nut. I don't know. I get confused about it sometimes. But I listen to you on the Higher Side Chats with that dude, and he does such a brilliant show. And he's absolutely on the money. That guy, I really like him. Need to get in contact with him at some point. But you've been doing loads of work, haven't you?
Yeah, his name is Greg Carlwood. I really like him as well. He's based in California, and I'm on it non-stop.
Because he knows Sophia Smallstorm, who we both know. But listen, before we get cracking into what you specialise in, which is false flags, I have been talking online via Facebook with people around the world about this issue of chemtrails. Now, I get up in the morning and I go for a run. My alarm goes off at 6 and then I'm out the door. And I'm out for at least an hour and a half, plodding along like the old man that I'm becoming. And as the sun rises and there's this beautiful blue sky, dark blue sky, gets lighter and lighter and lighter, and then all of a sudden, boom, these two planes that I focus on come from the left, from the mountainside, across towards Africa, and then back again. And by 11 or 12 o'clock, that sky is absolutely, it's got this white film. It's got a white film on it right now. And I'm posting this stuff on Facebook, and people are telling me that I'm completely insane.
Well, I wish I could say that you're insane. That would be a lot easier to deal with than the truth. And the truth is, chemtrails exist big time, big time, big time. I went out in 2009 in a series with Talk Radio Europe, where we went all over Europe. One of the things that we started with was this very, very serious, horrible thing called chemtrails. I mean, it's called chemtrails because it's chemical trails. It's not to be confused with contrails, which is condensation trails after jet planes. That only occurs on a certain altitude, and it's where when the water vapor from the jet engines crystallizes into ice molecules. But chemtrails is something very different. Contrails, they linger for a little while, they follow the plane, but they disappear when the ice crystals heats up and melts. So they disappear, but they follow like a white line that follows the plane. Chemtrails comes and it's long lines, white lines that stays for hours and hours and hours, and it slowly spreads out and becomes this white haze that you're talking about. And chemtrails is a phenomena. I don't know what to call it, but it started in the late 1990s in the States. And then I think it was around 2003, 2004, it started appearing in Western Europe. It's more or less, as far as I know, only NATO countries. And at least Western, in the Western world. And it is mostly silver-colored planes that have no markings. They are not using a transponder, meaning that the signal will not show up from these planes on radar and so on. So you can never identify them. And this is because in most countries it's done by military planes. And the pilots are recruited so that, for instance, maybe you got Spanish pilots in Croatia. In Croatia, we've got maybe Croatian pilots here. Americans are in Poland, there's Polish in America and so on, because they don't want the pilots, to have any emotional connection with the population.
With the people, that's right.
Exactly, it makes it easier. And as far as I know, the planes, they come from here, they come from, I think the base is in Western Portugal. That is where they start and land from. And normally, as far as I know, it's 5 planes. They start, just like you say, before dawn. The days when they hit us, they start before dawn at around the first, sometimes it's in the middle of the night as well. But normally it's around 6:48, something like that.
That's right.
And then they come with 12 minutes intervals. Like they go parallel with the coast. I've never seen them start from the west, from Portugal, that direction. They always come from the Malaga direction.
That's right.
And then go parallel with the coast. They disappear somewhere towards Portugal, and then later they appear again on a bit further inland, and then go back. And then with 12-minute intervals, you got parallel lines appearing.
Okay, so that is incredible, right? But I'm experiencing that. But let's take a quick break here, and then we're going to be straight back with Ole Dammegard, okay? So don't go anywhere, people. This is electric. Ole, we're back in. Right, so chemtrails. So I have a friend called Willie Lorenz, okay, and another friend called Pete Benali, and they are destroying me about this topic of chemtrailing, and they're basically just saying that I'm a fruitcake, okay? Now, that's fine, I can accept. Criticism is part of this gig, and that's how the construct polices us, right? They get other people to do the policing for them. So you and I both agree that there are planes and they're dropping something out the back of the plane. Mm-hmm. Now, Willie is a pilot for Cathay Pacific, and he said, listen, Dave, if chemtrails actually existed, then I would know. That's exactly what he said to me. So you're bonkers, and he knows that my son's training to be a pilot. He said, Dave, how can your son be training to be a pilot when you're mad as a hatter? But you know, I know you've got a friend who's a pilot, haven't you?
Yeah, and like I said before, I would be so happy if your friends were correct. I mean, that would be the perfect thing, that you were disillusional and this was not real. But unfortunately, I tell you a story. In 2009, I went out on radio. We were talking about chemtrails, and one man in Marbella called me. He knew me, and he called me privately and said, listen, you must be mad. Are you serious about this thing? I mean, just like you are being asked. And I said, yeah. And he said, no way can I believe that. I say, I'm very sorry. It is still the truth. As far as I understand, this is the truth. So he said, I'm going to call a friend of mine in Amsterdam who is a pilot, commercial pilot since 25 years. He will know. I said, please do. He called his friend in Amsterdam, asked. The guy in Amsterdam said, you're absolute bonkers. I'm a commercial pilot. I would know. So, and he said, I don't understand how would this technically be possible even. So that must be an absolute lie. So the man in Marbella called me back and said, you must be full of it because my friend, the commercial pilot, says it's absolute bonkers. And then I said, I'm very sorry, but the truth is still the truth. Chemtrails exist. I wish they didn't, but they do. This man later turned out, I found out this very year, that this is Wilhelm Felderhof, which is a great friend of mine now. The pilot he called in Amsterdam was Wilhelm. And
Wow.
in 2009,
Serendipity.
he had no idea about this, but that phone call got him interested because he said, how can anyone suggest such a mad thing? So he started looking into it. And then he, as a commercial pilot, started noticing and said, oh my God, how have I been able to be blind to it's incredible. And he now is so dedicating his life to geoengineering and exposing what is called geoengineering, which is a different name of these chemtrails. They're part of this whole thing.
Well, that's right. Listen, I've been trying to get hold of Willem because I want to get him on the show and talk about this stuff. Two, my mate Willie, who flies for Cathay Pacific, he is like Willem was in 2009. So what changed Willem's position of saying, you're bonkers, Ole, to, oh my word, this is actually taking place?
I don't know what it is that makes the switch, because I got a pilot friend in Sweden. I know he's a great pilot, he's a great friend, and he's totally blind for this phenomena, and I don't get it. It's almost like we're on different frequencies. Do you know, like just when you tune in a radio station and you sort of, and then suddenly you get the radio. And I don't know if we're on, as people are on different frequencies or whatever it is, because I cannot understand how it's not possible to see them. And then I spoke to Willem, and he said it's incredible because they just had a reunion, pilot reunion. I mean, his friends had at least 10,000 hours, each of them as a pilot. And they came out from the party, and there were chemtrails in the air. And Willem pointed them out and said, hey guys, what do you think about these things? And they said, what about them? And he said, but don't you see them? Yeah, but that's a natural phenomenon. You have to understand that is and they had a perfect explanation given to them by the airlines.
And by science, that's right. Science explains it away.
Yeah. But it is still absolute lies they're filling them with, because the only thing you need to do, I mean, you can put your camera out with a automatic, so it takes one photo every 30 seconds or 2 minutes or something like that. Put it outside, click like that, click, 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 and then you play it up as a video for yourself. And you will see that these white lines will, within a few hours, just like you explained, will turn the whole sky into a white haze or maze. You put some test tubes out with water outside, wherever you are. Just put a glass out there, see what comes out into it. Send it into a lab, check it for barium, strontium, and aluminum. These are the three big ones.
That's a great idea.
And another one, unfortunately, there's arsenic in this as well. But aluminum is the one. And aluminum, the trails after these planes they look like fluffy. They look like cotton wool. They're very, very white. You will also always see that the difference between normal clouds and chem clouds is the color. They're extremely white. And sometimes they look like candy floss. You got all of these weird formations. And then some days, thank you, when I know it's horrible. It's horrible when you really start to see what's going on. It's awful, because sometimes they're dropping viruses on us as well, and or something living, and the reason they put them inside of what is it called? Some kind of fiberglass almost so that these living organisms will survive the altitude until they drop down here. So it's not fiberglass. It's I forgot the name of it, but this thing that they're encapsulated in makes like rainbow effects on clouds. I don't know if you've seen that. Sometimes they're like, it's not a rainbow I'm talking about. It's the cloud itself that gives out these rainbow colors. Then you got like, sorry, I keep moaning, but here you got chembos as well. It is, if you look straight up to the sun, then you can get what looks like a rainbow, but white rainbow, but it goes all the way 360 around the whole like an optical illusion.
Let me just jump in there, Ollie. Right, I swear to you, the sun was yellow and now it's white. Okay, I don't get it. It just screws with my head a little bit. But who's doing this and why? If it's happening at all, of course.
Can I just say, anyone who does this, and once again, I so wish it was not true. If you're here in Spain and on a clear blue sky day, the air is clear. It should be clear. You should be seeing clearly because there's nothing to interrupt your vision. There should be no cloud, no fog, no whatever. Look up against the mountains. Look towards Africa. Look towards Gibraltar. You will see that there's a white haze in the air is filled with white stuff. And this is the aluminum we're talking about. We're breathing in this crap on a daily basis. And I tell you, this is not only here. The only reason we see it so clearly is that we don't have a lot of clouds because of the climate. But you go to England, Holland, Belgium, Germany, and especially over the big cities. I mean, I just want to cry when I see it. I've been flying around doing different tours here, and you can fly in and there's no chemtrails, and then you come in over a capital city and it's crisscross like a chessboard on top. What kind of planes would be allowed to fly like that over major towns or cities?
But still, my normalcy bias jumps in and it says that's not happening. There's no reason anyone would want to do that. You know, government's here to protect us. The only people who could do something like that would be government. Okay, and it sounds very, very right wing, fascist, and also, you know, I know you don't like to use the term, but I use the term as a Nazi kind of regime. So I'm just flabbergasted that this is taking place, and I'm on the edge, so I don't know what to believe, where to go. I'm just on the edge. We've got 30 seconds. What would you say to that?
Look out the sky, look out the window, look at the sky. See, are there these white trails? Why do they not disappear? Put out a glass. You know, in the morning you can put out a series of glass. There are laboratories in every single Western country.
There is, that's great.
You just have that glass out there and send it into laboratories. We've done it. And you check out the levels of aluminum, barium, strontium, especially these three. They will be skyrocketing, hundreds of times higher than is normal.
Well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it because I need some answers. But guys, do not go anywhere, because when we come back, we're going to speak to Ole and ask him about what he's been up to since the turn of this new year, and it's going to be fascinating. Okay, so just hang tight. Great to have you back with us, and it's great to know that you've got, you know, a nice little situation there with your family, with your daughter, your homeschooling. But let's talk about what you've been up to since Christmas and the New Year, please.
Just I want to stick with the chemtrails just a little more.
Okay, go for it.
Please, there are films, very fantastic documentaries made, especially by a man called Dane Wigington and his partner. And one of them is called What in the World Are They Spraying? You can find that on YouTube. What in the World Are They Spraying? Then there's another one, Why in the World Are They Spraying? And I think the third one, I don't know if that was stopped, Who in the World is Spraying? You know, very, very, very good documentaries where they've taken a camera and they've just gone from country to country to country and checked, you know, they made soil tests, they checked the water, they went up on mountaintops and checked the snow, and they were like thousands of times much more aluminum, barium, strontium, and so on in these areas that are being sprayed. So there's another one that I think it's called Don't don't talk about the weather. You can find that on YouTube as well. I think it's 27 episodes, something like that. Just an ordinary guy with a camera saying, "What the hell is going on?" These are years and years and years ago. These documentaries were made, and especially the intro to that film. What in the world are they? No, sorry, don't talk about the weather. You will see he's done exactly that thing. For a few hours, he put his camera click every 2 minutes or something like, and you will see clear blue sky, and then boom, there comes the first one, the second one,
Time
the
lapse.
third one, the fourth, and then it goes into a massive, horrible, thick chemical cloud that is on top of us. England is hit incredibly hard. Sweden, Germany. The only reason is that you don't see it that well because it's cloudy. So they're doing it on top of the clouds.
So who are they, Ole? Who are they? Come on.
This is who and why is a very tricky one to answer. But I would say that since we're seeing it in all NATO countries, Western countries, then it's not a matter of a single government, because it needs to be from a government point at least to be able to give permission. You go to the Malaga airport, check out on above the airport, it's crisscross more or less every single day. Who can give permission to that? The military could not do it without permission from the government. So it needs to come from the highest level in Spain for them to be allowed to do that. Same in England, same in Germany, and so on. So we're
That's
talking
right.
about
So
a corporation.
If let me just jump in. So if it was a commercial airline, then that would be listed somewhere saying that there is a flight at that time going from the mountains over to Africa. That would be listed by some form of airline organisation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the thing is, if you want to, there's a special app called Flight Radar Pro 24.
That's right.
That you can download, and with that, you can download it into your mobile. And when you see a plane coming in the sky, you can just aim your mobile at it, and it will receive the transponder signal just as a normal radar installation will do. That signal will then say, well, this is Norwegian flight 2364 or something like that, and it will come up, it's flying from Birmingham to Liverpool or whatever. But with these planes, there's no transponder signals, so you will not be able to see them on the radar. Nowadays, there are even websites, I think you can go to Flight Radar Pro there as well, where you can see all flights, all commercial flights that are there sending signals. You can see them, but if you look out the window at the same time, when you see these planes, they will not appear. But the normal traffic, the normal planes will. And then sometimes, I tell you for doubters, sometimes you can see a commercial plane with no contrail at all, and then side by side, more or less, by a chemtrail, a plane with chemtrails that are sort of like kilometers long. And they're flying, and sometimes the chemtrails plane are flying lower than a commercial plane. So it should be the absolute opposite because it's colder up where the commercial plane is. But nowadays it's gone worse because it is not only are there special planes doing this, but also it seems like commercial airlines have been pushed to an extremely difficult situation financially by some specific airlines that have just pushed down the prices. Just EasyJet, Ryanair, these type of airlines. You can buy tickets now for more or less nothing. I mean, it's cheaper than taking the bus. How can they sell tickets this cheap? The reason is that they unfortunately have started doing these things as well. So
they're being subsidised, basically.
And also some more and more commercial airlines are also starting to use engine fuel of a very low quality to save money, but that the exhaust from these jet engines are more or less identical to chemtrails.
Well, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking not only because we are inhaling chemicals of one form or another, and there's clearly a reaction to that because cancer rates are going through the roof, right? Autism through the roof, and so on and so forth. But also the fact that most people, 99% of people, are completely unaware or blind or just do not want to hear what's really going on.
What can I say? It is the truth is so painful to accept, and I totally agree. It's awful. I mean, because then suddenly, who can you trust? I mean, if you are being bombarded with things that is devastating for your health, that is devastating for the ground, for the earth, for the flowers. Because the thing is, this aluminum. One of the things it does is that it makes the soil very acidic. You know. And it makes the plants weaker and weaker and weaker. I am sure that people here on the coast and so on will have noticed that plants have been weaker and weaker and weaker. It's harder and harder to get flowers to grow the way they did. The fruit gets, they have all these black strange spots. There's a lot of fungus. There's a lot of, moss growing on the trees. And so on, that did not occur before. There's and the thing is, it is one reason for these things. It's all based on that old Roman tactic we've talked about before: problem, reaction, solution. The people in power, whoever they are, secretly create a problem. In this case, suddenly people will become more and more sick, or plants will get weaker and weaker, and so on. To get our reaction, oh my God, we have a problem. We have a problem. The plants are dying here, they're weaker and weaker. And that is what they're looking for so that they can come with their solution. And one of the solutions is GMOs, where the people behind this have created, they have taken over the seeds from so many different plants, gene manipulated them into becoming resistant to aluminum. That is one of the things they're very resistant against. So that when we have the problem, oh my God, my roses are dying here, then boom, not a problem. We have the new rose here that is resisting this problem, that can handle this problem. The only thing is you have to buy it from us. Same with fruits, vegetables, all of these things. Oh, my tomato plants are dying, not a problem. The only thing is you have to buy it from us. And then they have in these veggies and fruits and so on, they got like what is called terminator seeds, which makes it last for only one season. You know, tomato plants normally give seeds for the next season, but the GMOs, in one season, boom, then you have to buy new seeds.
That's right, but this all sounds very sci-fi. This cannot possibly be real. We're not in a movie, Ole. There's no one out there doing this. We're just living life on a planet hurtling through space, right? So what are you saying? Are you saying that we are trying to, that there's a small group of people that are manipulating the human race, controlling and ultimately killing people? Is that right?
In the long run, yeah. This is it is so sad to come to this recognition. It's like, and I the last thing I want to do is spread fear, because then I'm doing their job. They try to get us fearful on so many different levels. So that is the last thing I want. What I want is to wake people up to the fact of what's going on and help to rise their spiritual strength as well, so we can handle and deal with these things. Because the people behind what is called the New World Order are in the thousands, and we are billions. So really, it's a joke. It's like if we were attacked by an ant. The global population had an ant on its feet, and the ant is saying, "Obey, or I will do things to you," and we go and just bend over. It's not even an ant. It's smaller than that, comparison. So the whole thing is a joke. It's only by us being totally asleep and allowing this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it.
But that's right. But I feel so helpless and hopeless sometimes. It's just like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? Anyway, guys, do not leave us, right? Ole's going to be back just have this small little break, then Ole will be back and we'll be talking further. Hi guys, we are back in. This is the last little section before the top of the hour. Do not leave us because it's going to get very, very exciting. Ole, thanks for dropping into the beat again. I really appreciate your time, buddy.
No, my absolute pleasure. I'm just sorry that I'm the messenger of bad news.
I know, man.
If you,
And it's terrible news. It is terrible news. But, you know, I'm not sure what's worse, the chemtrailing or the ignorance of the population, right? I'm not sure. You know, a couple of years ago, I had no idea. And there comes a responsibility with this kind of information, doesn't there, Ollie?
But this is why I think we're closing our eyes, because if you start getting the magnitude of what's going on, you just want to give up, you know. But I feel totally, I mean, I've devoted some 30 years of my life to this road to try and do everything I can to change this planet into this perfect, beautiful place it's supposed to be. And I feel a massive difference in the awakening of people now, if I compare to back then. But chemtrails is a bad one, because also I tell you, here on the coast, for instance, if you check out the cases of cancer and respiratory problems, and it is so connected to the chemtrails, and even the doctors, many of the doctors are not aware of it. There are some people waking up to the fact, and more people, I would suggest, when they have these things, should ask to be tested for heavy metals in their body and so on. Because especially aluminum and things like that, the body cannot get rid of in a natural way, so it accumulates inside of you, and it makes your body environment acidic as well. And it is in acidic environment that cancers flourish. You know, especially the cancer parts that are fungus, which is things that is coming out more and more, that certain sorts of cancer are fungus based, and this can only exist in an acidic body environment. There was a man, what was his name, a German guy in 1931 that won the Nobel Peace, not Peace Prize, but prize in medicine for having discovered this. So many things of health-wise is caused by this as well. I mean, we deserve and we need fresh air, fresh water, and fresh food.
But someone would say to you about that statement, let's say, but listen, Ole, the population here is very old, okay? Generally speaking, we're looking at people who come to retire in the sun and spend their last few quid before they cark it, right? So it's quite it's an older population. You and I are youngsters along this coast, and you know, but that doesn't actually combat the whole discussion that the cases of cancer alone, leukemia, are going through the roof. Just look at the facts. You know, we've got a war on cancer. You know, like we've got a war on terror, a war on debt, and so on and so forth. War against ISIS, and still these things are growing exponentially. And it's crazy, and I am flabbergasted. I'm just at the end. I'm at the jumping off place, you know, regarding this topic, because every single morning I get up and that blue sky turns to white, and it's heartbreaking, because I want a future for my daughter.
So do I, and we're gonna get it. It's just we need to act as well. Being asleep is not the way to deal with this. So
no, but
I don't know a solution. I just know that this is what's going on. It is absolutely totally out of order. Also, when you start seeing why they're doing it to us, I mean, it's not only what is called slow death, because they want to get rid of quite a lot of us. It's not only that, but also how these what they're trying to do is change the air into like a plasma thing that can be electrically charged, because through that then they can use that in different tracking systems, military systems, together with what is called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. You can have a look on the internet. There are millions of sites nowadays talking about HAARP, where they use chemtrails as a part of these weapon systems as well. And so it is bad news all over the place. And also through HARP and chemtrails, they are able to create many of these disasters, so-called natural disasters around the world. Many of them are absolutely man-made.
Okay,
tell
so let me just jump in there. We are going to a track now, and this is the top of the hour. Do not leave us, because we're going to be back in, and I'm going to ask Ole to start talking about some of these disasters and what he's been up to since the new year. So do not leave us. Ole, hi, we're back in. Thanks for the second hour here. Could you just give me, we've spoken about chemtrails, we're both pretty emotional about chemtrails, but can you just give me an overview of what you've been up to since we last spoke?
Yeah, for sure. One of the things I really focused on was when the last thing happened in Paris on November 13th. It is extremely important, in my opinion, to try and find out the real truth behind these operations. Either was this an attack by a bunch of crazy Muslim fanatics connected to the whole stream of refugees coming through Greece and so, or was it a false flag, and as such a thing, state-sponsored terrorism, where these false flags are done to, they secretly create a problem, we're back to problem, reaction, solution, to get the emotional reaction from us, which the ones they want is like, oh my God, I'm under attack, help me. And then we turn towards the people who secretly created the problem, asking for their help, because we have elected them as leaders of our countries and so on, say, please help us. And then they say, well, here's the solution. And that, boom, is the one every single time. It's more and more military police, surveillance, more and more funding for unjust war, police everywhere, military, building up a military force and so on. But this military force and police force is more and more used against us, to control us instead of to protect us. So when I started looking into this Friday the 13th, and right away, I mean, within half an hour, it was so obvious that here we have another of these false flag operations. I spent some 30 years exposing these things. I've even been able to stop some of these false flag massacres. And I've also been able to publicly predict, like the Copenhagen shooting. I went out publicly and said, it's going to happen around this train station in central Copenhagen. And boom, there it happened. 1 month later, exact on the day, everything at that train station, very close by, was when it happened. This is not because I'm super intelligent or got a crystal ball. It's just like when you see how they work, when you see their methods, you start to know their methods, you start to know the way they think. It is not difficult.
I know,
but it's very horrible. The effects are very horrible if we don't stop.
Let me play devil's advocate, okay? People will say, again, they weren't false flags. They were extremists who are full of hatred. Even Michael Cesarian, who I'm sure you're familiar with, has come out and said, the Paris attacks actually happened. I believe what you're telling me. You're telling me, that when there's a suicide bomber, that there's a big mess, and there was no big mess when there's for the Paris attacks, and plus things like the Twitter account, the Facebook account that went live prior to the attacks, and so on and so forth. It just doesn't ring true. But the narrative, even in the alternative media, is divided.
Yeah, but well, what can I say? I base this on more than half of my life, and you're welcome to come and chop my right arm off if this was if the official story is true. This was an absolute false flag attack. I put my head on the bench. Here's the axe. If I'm not correct, conspiracy theorist, that is an expression that was created by the powers behind the assassination of JFK to hit anyone, any serious critic who came forward, and they've used it for so many years. And it's very efficient, because as soon as you mention the word conspiracy, people automatically, their brain will generate the word theory. And as soon as you have theory in, there's a doubt. I'm not interested in theories. I'm only interested in conspiracy facts, because anybody can have an opinion, but the only thing that matters to me is the truth.
So what have you been up to? My understanding was that you were going from place to place with a documentary crew. Is that correct?
That is the idea. I've just come back from a week in England where I went. My idea is to create a series of documentaries, maybe 8 to 10 shows of 30 minutes each, where I go on location where many of these false flag operations have taken place, and then first in the show the official story, and then on site totally take it apart by showing the truth according to the evidence. And the first place we started was in Woolwich, the so-called beheading of an English soldier. I think most people remember that one, but I tell you, it's my absolute all-time favorites, because once you start looking into it, it was so badly carried out. It was so poorly done. Nobody died. It was a total fake event there to create this the normal reaction, problem reaction solution.
Can we talk about it a little bit, go into depth, because I'm very familiar with that particular story. And I'd like to go. What got me about that particular story is that apparently these two coloured guys came out with knives and chopped off the head of a soldier. And then I just have this image of this woman, this old woman, she must be on 143 with a Sainsbury's shopping bag, walking past this guy as he was being filmed by just by chance, talking about David Cameron or whatever, and she just wandered on past. I mean, if I was confronted by axe, the guy with an axe in his hand who just chopped off a head, I'd be pretty frightened. But this woman just did not seem to care. I mean, can we just delve a little bit deeper?
Yeah, of course. It's more than one. She wasn't that old, and there were three of them. And just like you say, you had this guy who officially stands in front of a bypasser who's filming him with his mobile camera, and he's standing there with bloody hands and a big meat cleaver and a knife, talking into the camera. And there's a headless body in the middle of the street. And just like you, I mean, I'm not used to seeing headless bodies lying around, so I would freak out, But here in the background, we have people totally relaxed. People keep a very long distance away from the guy. There's absolutely zero traffic during a 25-minute interval before the police arrives. It took them 25 minutes to arrive, even though one of the police stations is very close by. There's fire brigades, there's everything. But 25 minutes, no traffic whatsoever, no honking of horns, no people shouting. It took place right outside the army barracks, Woolwich Army Barracks, where there were hundreds and hundreds of soldier friends of this victim, and none came out to help him during these 25 minutes. Nobody approached these two guys. And the more you look into it, when you really start looking into it and take it apart, it becomes an absolute farce. And one of the things also, I used to work as an extra on film sets for a few years, and I was so keen to get a job in that industry, so I really tried to do everything I could to learn everything to become more valuable for this film company, So I was trying to learn everything about lighting and makeup and background, how background extras are working and directed and all of these things. And so this has been extremely helpful for me now when I look into false flags, because after the Boston bombing, so many of these so-called terror events have been filmed events to get an emotional reaction, but through TV. It is through the media that they want to create this massive fear effect. So we will just go, oh my God, we're under attack. Muslims, Islamic terrorists everywhere in every single corner, waking up in the morning, eating their cereals, just trying to figure out ways to blowing us up. But I tell you, when you look at and you really start looking into it, there's a totally different story behind this. And I would very much suggest that this event happened in Woolwich had nothing to do with Muslims or anything else. It was to divert the attention away from the so-called Bilderberg meeting that was coming up just less than 2 weeks after this happened. And the Bilderberg group If you're not aware of that, I would very much suggest people to look into it. It is part of the so-called elite. They call themselves the elite. It's part of a hidden network of where the strings are really pulled behind the curtains. And they were created in 1954. It's only 125, 30 members that meet on a regular basis. They meet once a year on secret locations, moving around all over the Western world. And it's handpicked people from most, if not all, Western countries.
When you suggested that they staged the beheading to distract from the Bilderberg group, normal people are going to think that that's absolutely insane.
What can I say? I'm not the one making it up. It's like the Bilderberg group was created in 1954, and they have had secret meetings once a year in different countries in the Western world. They keep moving around, often very isolated 5-star hotels where they meet under total security, very, very high security level. They get flown in helicopters. They drive in black limousines. It's really like when you look at a James Bond movie, it's exactly like that. I've been more than one of these places at these meetings and so on, and it has not been a secret that they existed, but they've always said that they were just a gentleman's club. They smoke guitar. No, not guitars. They smoke cigars and talk about golf more or less than that. But when you look at what these people are, they are the top of the top inside these in society in these different countries. Handpicked people in key positions with the idea that if you can control people, just a handful of people in the exact most important positions in different areas of a society, then you can control that country more or less, but without being seen. That's the whole idea. So people in this group are very high up bankers, politicians, prime ministers, people in banking, in communication. You got the chief of Google, you got Amazon, you got Facebook, these type of people. You got people way up in the legal systems. You got people in media, key people in media, and so on. You got royalties and so on. And they meet in these different locations. And more and more people have been, or researchers have been so focused on trying to expose this group, because it is in these groups, I would suggest, and many other researchers would suggest, that the real decisions are taken when it comes to our future and so on. And it was during from 2000 and onwards, people that were pointing fingers trying to expose this were being totally ridiculed. They were being laughed at and so on. But then it came to a point in 2013 where they could not hide it anymore. And then suddenly they turned and changed tactics. They employed a big German PR, PR firm to change their image so that they would look really good, just like in a gathering of nice old gentlemen that were just eating cookies and having a cup of tea. And then, but this was in 2013 when this exact thing happened. Sorry?
From my perspective, I don't see the connection between the Woolwich beheading and Bilderberg.
No, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
The thing was that in 2013, they could not hide their existence anymore. And suddenly, international media was waking up to the fact that, what the hell? How come we have not known about these meetings? How can leaders of many different countries meet without us knowing about it? I mean, we live in a democracy, don't we? Don't we live in an open society in the Western world? And so many journalists were packing their bags on their way to the Bilderberg meeting. Not that they were being allowed in. The public were allowed into like in a grassy area about 1 kilometer away from the hotel. It's the Grove Hotel in Watford, north of London. And so the whole media was getting their attention focused on trying to expose or show what the hell is going on there. And then, boom, this thing happened, and suddenly everything about the Bilderberg meeting was forgotten. Now the whole focus was on terrorist, Islamist, extremist, violent crimes. All of these things. The whole media for weeks and weeks were focused on this thing and what had happened, and the whole thing that then continued. So I would say this is what is called a diversion. It's a very simple operation, military operation, to just divert the attention away from what is really important. And I truly believe that is why we saw this. But also things like this, these fake events that I would suggest are state-sponsored terrorism, creates and gets the support for these endless wars on other countries. They get the support from the population. The population will pay millions and millions and millions without hesitating for their own protection, the way they see their own protection. But it is just built on lies. And this is where I hope that with this series of documentaries, I will not suggest my opinion. I will just put it in front of you on the screen so that you can make up your own opinion. But I tell you, when you gather the evidence, you push it into half an hour and put it on screen, it is mind-blowing. It is just mind-blowing.
So who are you making the documentary with?
It's myself and a film crew. And I've got private funding for a pilot, and now as soon as this pilot will be finished I hope within the next week, I'm going to go and get support, financial support by some of the bigger ones. Not that I expect public media. There are very few channels that really support this type of information getting out there. But through my friends, Ken O'Keefe or Kevin Barrett, and these people have connections to possible financiers of documentaries like this. So that is my plan.
And so you looked at the Woolwich beheading. Have you looked at any others?
God, yeah. I think this is a third of my life I looked into.
But I mean specifically with the film crew.
No, but because we're back to the financing of it. There's plane tickets, there accommodation, because these things, it's very intense work that is needed to pull them off. So, but I'm looking at the 7/7 bombings, the mass shooting in Norway, the Copenhagen shooting, Charlie Hebdo, Friday the 13th, Sandy Hook, the Boston Marathon, 9/11, these type of events where I would very much like to go on location, because it's so different when you are there where it actually happened. It will give you a totally different perspective to the whole thing, and I hope that will come across as well for the viewer once they see this.
Well, that's right. So if there's anyone listening to this particular broadcast, if you'd like to get involved and help Ole to go from site to site, then please contact me via The Beat or contact Ole directly at lightonconspiracy.com. Anything else to add to that little pitch, my friend?
Yeah, it's info@lightonconspiracies.com, because unfortunately there's more than one conspiracy going on, so it's plural.
Oh yeah, there is. The whole planet is under some form of conspiracy, and I know even the alternative media has its own conspiracies, and the whole conversation of flat Earth is out there big time. And I know that you don't go there; it's not your field, so we won't speak about it. But there's all sorts of things that are taking place right now, which are a bit disconcerting, I must admit. And these false flags are definitely part of it. So just coming back to the false flags, clearly we haven't seen much activity in around the globe at the moment. We've got a minute and 20 seconds, but there are certain things. There's a lot of stuff going on in the financial sector at the moment, but and there are wars taking place, but nothing specifically in Europe, is there?
I certainly hope not, and I hope that mine and many other people who are putting such an effort into exposing these things, I really hope it has an effect and is really slowing these things down. And I have a friend in the CIA, his name is Chip Tatum, he's a whistleblower, And he's been involved in false flag operations himself before, and he says that they are on a very, very strict timeline, and every single time we mess it up for them, it can take months for them to recuperate, to get back in things, because there's so many of these things internationally that are connected, and they need to be able to pull one off properly to get the next one off, and so on, to be able to create this emotional effect they're trying to get, so that we will more and more accept the so-called New World Order.
Where are you at the moment? You're in southern Spain, are you not?
Yeah, I am since I think it's 15, 16 years now. I was deeply involved in a small group in Sweden, trying to expose what happened behind the assassination of the Swedish Prime Minister Olof Palme, that was gunned down more or less exactly 30 years ago. It's 30 years ago on the 28th of February this year. And it came to a point after almost 12 years when two of my friends in this little group were murdered. I was threatened as well, and I just felt, it's getting too close. I don't want to end up as statistics. So my sweet girlfriend and I decided to leave, and we left Sweden more or less, boom, and started from scratch here. And I've been very happy to be here ever since.
Yeah, it's a nice spot, I must admit, down on the south coast of Spain. It has its pros and its cons, like everywhere. But there's a lot of building going along the coast at the moment. I reckon that's because they're expecting lots of people to come to Spain in the summer, okay? And it feels like the economy's picking up. Now, I know that's not your area, but do you expect any form of false flag in Spain itself?
I sure hope not. I mean, the Madrid bombings was a false flag. And I just want to explain, I mean, I think many people are not aware of what a false flag is. It's an old naval term, and it comes from when, in the old days, if you were a naval nation and you wanted to attack an island or a small country or something like that, if you did that, it could cause you some problems, maybe with neighboring countries or trade agreements or so on. So the whole idea with a false flag was for you to look good and not be the bad guy. So what they did was they just put the so-called enemy's flag on one of their own ships, then let that ship attack themselves, and then suddenly they were under attack, saying, oh my God, we're under attack, we need to defend ourselves. And then that would justify them going in, rape, plunder, and destroy that country. And so many wars have been started in modern times on false flags. I tell you, it is incredible when you go into details and you really start looking everything from the Vietnam War, both world wars, and so on. These different ones where the powers in the background they want to create these conflicts. They thrive on death and destruction and war, and make absolute billions. And also, in these situations, manage to centralize the power to fewer and fewer and fewer. That has been the plan for a long, long time. So false flags are one of the major tools they have against us, the normal people, to get us in line with their agenda.
So one of the major false flags, we've spoken about it before, was 9/11. And it opened up a whole series of regulatory changes, not only in America but across the world. This is true, isn't it?
God, yeah. I mean, if you compare the world, I would say before 9/11 and after 9/11, it is not the same place. Especially when it comes to all of this surveillance, security. I mean, we're in 1984. That whole scenario, we're living it now. We're living in science fiction land. I mean, you could just go to an airport, it's ridiculous. I mean, and all of that, when you really look into it, more or less all of it based on lies. Because I have looked into so many of these things, and I tell you, I end up again and again and again with the same power structure behind it, with patsies going down, taking the blame for the whole thing. But the power structure behind it is the same. And the question you always need to ask yourself, who benefits? That is the key question. Cui bono, as the old Romans said. When you come to a crime scene, cui bono, who benefits? And you will see that question will lead you somewhere else than the official story of these crimes.
So, who does benefit, Ole? You know, the big question is who's the big baddie? Who is really the baddie? Is it the Muslims, the extremists? Are the bankers responsible? Is it the Catholic Church, the Jesuits? I mean, where does your research lead you?
It is a very, very good question, and what I've understood from all of these years is that there is like a pyramid-shaped power structure globally trying to control us. This is totally compartmentalized, meaning that so many of us that are in this pyramid power structure don't know about our real function in it. We think we're doing good, we think we're doing the right thing at our jobs or whatever it is, but when you see the whole machine, sort of, only a very few people really know the agenda behind a lot of these things that have led us to this situation we are today. And I would say, from my experience, the threat we're looking at today has nothing to do with Islam or people of Muslim faith. They are, at this point in history, being used as the patsies to distract our attention away from the real problem. You were mentioning bankers. They are very central in this whole thing. Groups like the Bilderberg Group, please look that group up. The Bilderberg Group, you will be shocked when you see the members of this. I've written one book called Coup d'etat in slow motion. Coup d'etat in slow motion, you can get it on Amazon. And especially in the earlier editions of that, I had 200 pages with, or at least 100 pages, with just the members of the Bilderberg Group from 1954 and onwards, with the secret agenda that have leaked out and the secret locations also. And when you go through that, it's like, it is unreal. So many of these people you see on TV on a daily basis, looking very nice and so on, and then you see them involved in these very, very criminal activities behind the scenes. So the Bilderberg Group, you got the Council on Foreign Relations in the States, you got the Trilateral Commission. These are also, many of these are members in more than one of these organizations. You got the Committee of 300, and so on. These are the power structures, but they're not the actual top of the pyramid. And when you get up to the real top of the pyramid, I have no idea. It's I don't know. People say it's the Illuminati, they say it's the Jesuits, they say it's the Catholic Third Church, they say it's aliens, they say, I don't know. I've had to focus on one specific part, and the thing that has really caught my interest is top political assassinations and false flag operations. Because the way I see it, we all need to focus on one bit and become experts on that specific thing to make a difference. If I were talking about all type of conspiracy, I mean, I would be totally confused and I would be all over the place and I wouldn't do any good for anyone. But it's by being very specific and have very specific information about these things that I hope that I'm making a difference by hopefully stop these false flag operations. I know for sure that I've been part of stopping at least one, I think two. So, and since they don't have so many weapons against us, they really don't, then false flag is one of the things that where we can disarm this horrible weapon that is aimed at us.
And there are some brilliant people out there doing some brilliant work. There's you. There's people like Sophia Smallstorm, who's just an exceptionally bright mind. Yeah, it's incredible. On just amazingly bright. And there's a massive list. A lot of them are male. Okay. Then you got David Icke, but David Icke's been shrouded by controversy recently regarding the money he raised for People's Voice. 700,000 they got, and no one knows where the cash has gone, and so on and so forth. You've got your mate Ken O'Keefe, who's setting up World's Citizen Solutions. A friend of ours is involved in that, as we both know. And there's just so many people out there, but still, you know, I've got a small little radio show, but still we're the minority, buddy.
I wouldn't call it minority. I mean, when you compare to, if they're in the thousands, I know that over the years I've reached through these hundreds and hundreds of interviews I've done, I must have reached millions. You know, so
Yes, you
just
have.
my little part is part of reaching way more people than they are. It's just that they, the famous they, are in so-called power positions. But the thing is, most of them are old guys. I mean, and we say, oh, they're so powerful. They got all these weaponries and high-tech things. I tell you, if you know an old guy, put a computer in front of them, put a virus in there, would he be able to sort it out? Would he be able to fix a USB thing that didn't work? No, they rely on us, the normal person, our skills. They need us to be able to handle this high-tech weaponry for them, to be pilots for them, to be soldiers for them, to be police officers for them, to be banking clerks and so on for them in this machine, playing the game and controlling each other. That's the thing. We control each other. We don't need police or anything. We do it.
That's
you know,
right.
we have check on the neighbors. Oh, he's doing that. Oh,
That's
he's doing
right.
that. You know, we are like sheep with us being the guard dogs.
That's right. So people listen to what Ole's saying. He's absolutely right. You know, as soon as you start to wake up, it's pretty scary, but there is a future and it's bright. So that's the end of this section. We've got one small section to go. So let's have a little bit of a break. We're going to go to a track, so don't leave it.
Well, we're right in the ending of editing the first pilot of this documentary. And then I'm going to Sweden. I've been invited up there to do a whole day seminar about the assassination of Olof Palme, which is an incredible conspiracy as well, multi-layered. It's almost like the JFK assassination with the power structure going straight into the global top levels, you know, connected to the Iran-Contra scandal, weaponry, pedophile gangs, Freemason networks and so on. It's just an incredible thing. Then once I've done that, it's in Gothenburg, organized by a group called Cui Bono, very good name, I must say. And then I will go with a camera guy, hopefully to Copenhagen. We will do a filming on site there to try and show exactly what happened at the Copenhagen shooting earlier this year in February. And after that, really, I take one day at a time. I have no idea. It's just there's so much going on. And I so hope that we will not have to see more of these false flags, that we've exposed enough of them so that they won't pull it off again. Because nowadays, people say, oh, nobody is aware. And I totally disagree, because thousands and thousands and thousands of people are waking up more or less on a daily basis. And now as soon as they pull one of these events off, within minutes, you will find on the internet and YouTube and so on, where people are starting to dissect these false flags. Because once you know the ingredients that are in a false flag, it's just like baking a pie. You know what is in there. You can change the taste and the smell of it, but basically it's the same. And it's the same with these operations. It is the same, being repeated again and again and again and again. And I've even come to a point where I truly believe that what we're seeing is not the whole world crazy with terror activity and terror events everywhere, but separate events. But instead we're seeing a small group, like a theater group, like the Rocky Horror Show, on a global tour. A small group that is being transported in NATO or American Army planes from airbase to airbase, flying from Ottawa to Sydney to carry these things out, from Sydney to Copenhagen to Paris and so on, carrying these things out, meaning that we are looking at a small group of between 30 to 50 people, consisting of some actors, often very poor actors, because they can't use the good ones because they're been seen in media too much, so they have to be satisfied with what is left over. Then you got background extras, just like I used to be, like 30 of them, some 30, 40 of them. That is also why we keep seeing the same faces in, for instance, when the Sydney siege was there, or the Ottawa shooting, or the Copenhagen and so on. Then you have military advisors, you have PR people there, like a public relationship that comes up with logos, that comes up with slogans, that have all of these things printed beforehand. With for instance, all of these thousands of signs of "Je suis Charlie" that came, boom, as soon as the shots were fired, boom, in came the whole thing. Same in Copenhagen, same in more or less everywhere. You have like a whole PR stunt on standby. So as soon as boom, whatever is horrible thing is supposed to happen happens. The patsy is taken. There's an investigation that is part of the operation that is on standby, that just moves in, takes over all the police work, kicks out all normal, decent police, detectives, and so on. And with their only task is to not find the real truth. They're part of the operation, and they will keep anyone from finding out what actually happened. Then these investigations are then followed by so-called commissions. If normal people are not satisfied after a year or so with what's going on, with what the investigation is finding out, which is absolute bollocks every single time, then they say, oh, if you really doubt us, we will put a commission there. Then that commission will be there for at least a year, piling up thousands of pages of documents of absolute nonsense that will tell you zero, what will bore you to tears. And then if people don't accept that, they will just put another commission that will look into the first commission, that will not look into the investigation.
That's right. And you know what happened with...
After the Palmer assassination, we've had 4 commissions.
Well,
4. And now nobody wants to even speak about it.
Exactly. Everyone gets really bored.
The whole plan.
Kissinger headed up the 9/11 Commission, and there were so many complaints they had to remove Kissinger. But Ole, that's fantastic. Thank you very, very much for your time. We're coming to the end of this particular interview. We'd love to have you back on, but please just tell people how they can get in touch with you.
My website is lightonconspiracies.com. I've got several books. I've got Coup d'etat in slow motion you can find on Amazon, about the assassination of Olof Palme, but with the connections all the way back, even personal connections with the JFK assassination. I've got another one called Shadow of Tears. I've got Remind Me. I've got a whole series of books up there. And if you would like to support me, because I'm not part of an organization, I'm not. This is not my job. I'm just trying to do everything I can. Then please sign up for my newsletter, or as a member on my website, or buy my books, or donations are extremely appreciated. Because the thing is, we're all in the same boat. We're all in this together. So let's help each other. I'm willing to put myself on the line. I'm doing everything I can, and I will keep doing it with or without your help. But it sure makes it a lot easier with the support of others as well.
Ole Dammegard, thank you very much. Truth is stranger than fiction. Thank you for coming, spending some time with us on The Beat. It's always a pleasure, and we'd love to have you back sooner rather than later. Good luck with the film and the documentary. When it's done, I suggest that we get you back on, we talk about it, and get people to watch it. What do you think to that?
Sounds great.
All right, mate. All right, take care. God bless.
Hey, I'm Herschel36. Thanks for listening to Truth is Stranger Than Fiction on The Beat 106 FM. Did you like it? If so, give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, people! Brought to you by justfinishingrecords.co.uk. Herschel36, where truth is stranger than fiction.